Devils were hoping that home cooking would be the answer and cause an extension of the winning to 2 games, but unfortunately Tampa Bay extends its winning streak to 2. Devils will try to find the winning touch on Saturday against Anaheim as they fall by a score of 8-4. Matt Loughlin and Chico Resch as we deliver some of the highlights and get some reaction on tonight's loss from the Devils and from the head coach. And I don't know. I had a pretty good feeling. I'm not going to lie, Chico. And generally, I'm positive toward the Devils. But I had a pretty good feeling. Yeah, Tampa Bay won its last game, but they were without key players. Hedman got hurt again. No McDonough. No Vasilevsky.
Well, and Matty, we had scored. The third line had chipped in. Markstrom was lights out. You know, you're saying, okay, you're not going to make glaring mistakes early on. No way. We're better than that. None of those things came to fruition early.
No, unfortunately, there was a turnover, and Tampa Bay took an early lead. Puck inside the blue line. Sabourin hands it off. They score. And it's Nick Paul with the goal. And it comes early, less than 3 minutes in. It was a nice goal. Nick Paul did score a goal scorer's goal, as they say. But it was Scott Sabourin picking off a pass inside the blue line. Paul finishes it off at 2:57, and it was Dougie Hamilton with the turnover.
And again, what complicates it, it was their fourth line that scored it. You don't want the fourth line to get the first goal that easily, that early.
And it was Tampa with the early 1-0 lead. Less than a minute later, a laser from the blue line, and the crowd was buzzing. So, with the 1-0 lead, here's a blast. They score!
Radish.
Darren Radish with the slapper from inside the blue line. He had 2 the other night, and it's 2-0. 2 goals in the win against Montreal for Darren Radish. Now 6 goals on the season. The goal came 51 seconds after Paul lifted the goal-scoring curtain. Nikita Kucherov starting a good night as he and Brandon Hagel had the assists.
Yeah, Kucherov, if you wanted to get an indication of what he might be tonight, that play showed it all.
So 3:48 the time of the goal, and it's a 2-0 advantage for Tampa Bay. But the Devils came back. Now, Jonas Johansson was shaky early on. He gave up rebounds. The Devils weren't able to score, but you thought that if he kept up that kind of play, the Devils eventually would be able to score and maybe score enough to win the game. I guess they did in some ways. They got 4.
No, you know, that's a great point, Matty. If you look at if you cut out their goals, but you look at, say, the first 7 or 8 minutes of this hockey, just from the Devils' point of view, they were getting breaks. They were getting scoring chances. I thought, it's going to go well for them tonight.
Mercer was stopped. Pratt was stopped. Pratt had a great opportunity. A couple of jabs at it, couldn't score. So it was still 2-0. But finally, someone like Jesper Bratt, who needed some good things to happen offensively, had it happen, and Luke Hughes brought the Devils within 1. Puck behind the Tampa Bay net. Here's Cotter with it to the blue line. Dillon cross ice, faking, now spinning as Luke Hughes moves in with a shot. He scores! Luke Hughes ends a drought, gets the Devils on the board, and it's 2-1. For Luke, his first goal in 13 games. He scored against Washington, his only other goal of the season, at 11:15. That was not at the time. It was on the month, the 11th month, the 15th date. And Luke Hughes now makes the Devils feel better about themselves. Brendan Dillon, Paul Cotter with the assist at the 7-minute mark. And suddenly there was some life in the building, but it didn't last all that long, did it?
No, it was a beautiful goal. It was like we talked about the last game of the third line, chipping in, getting depth scoring. And we thought, okay, this is coming along nicely. But then what happened?
Well, 56 seconds later, Jacob Markstrom's night was done, and maybe so was the Devils. Now here's a chance. Holmberg in with a backhand. He scores.
No.
Now here's a chance. Holmberg in with a backhand. He scores.
No.
He does. He backhands one low along the ice, and it beats Markstrom. And Jake Allen is getting ready. Well, we just wanted to make sure you got that one, a double dose of bad news for the New Jersey Devils as Holmberg scores his 3rd goal of the season. J.J. Mosier and Yanni Gourde with the assists. And Well, that was the end of the night for Jacob Markstrom. 3 goals on 7 shots. That puck went through the 5-hole. And another one of those examples where you want to save, you need a defensive play, you can't give up take a penalty. Any of those momentum things, you just come within one, maybe finding your game, but no, that wasn't the case.
No, Matt, like you said, I didn't see it. I was maybe cutting Markstrom some slack. I thought it was over his pad. But if you get beat on the ice between the 5-hole, that's all the goalie. It's not somebody else. And so then the coaches pulled him. That hasn't happened much this year, has it?
Yeah, Jake Allen came on and faced the rest of the Tampa Bay attack. There was a power play later in the period. In fact, there was almost back-to-back power plays. Heischer called for a hook at 12:28. Devils killed that at 14:53. Nemitz was called for a hook. Tampa Bay would score. Jake Gensel with his 15th goal of the season. And the power play goal made it 4-1 after one period of play. Into the second we would go, and it wouldn't get much better for the Devils. Oliver Bjorkstrand with his his third goal of the season, 5th of the game for Tampa. 5-1 was the lead. But we'll bring you some Devils love as at 12:18, Yanni Gourde went off for a trip. Luke Hughes needed a goal, so did this guy, Jesper Bratt. Neeson in front of the Devils bench. Gets the pass back from Bratt, but it rolls off his stick, and the Devils have to clear the zone. Since Jack Hughes' absence, the Devils just 5 for 30. Breakaway. Bratt moves in. Shot scores. Well, the power play works in Jack's absence, and finally, Jesper Bratt cracks the seal. Yeah, no coincidence. The Devils' power play struggling and offensively overall struggling in Jack Hughes' absence. But there, Shimo Nemitz finds Jesper Bratt. Nice stretch pass and a breakaway and a goal for Bratt, who hadn't scored. Oh, gosh, many moons.
But 14 games, I think you said, man.
Yeah, 16.
16, yeah. And you know what? It wasn't a conventional power play goal, but maybe that's what they needed. They couldn't score the normal way on a power play, so it's a breakaway pass from their own blue line. And Jesper, what a deke. And, we're looking for positives here. Maybe that will unlock something inside him.
Well, hopefully it does, but it didn't unlock the Devils for the most part the rest of the way. Brandon Hagel scored his 18th goal of the season at 16:35 to make it 6-2 going to the third. In the third, Devils tried to mount a bit of a comeback, but it was a nice moment for Angus Cruikshank. Here's Glenn Denning. He's checked by Moser. Goes down behind the net, back up on his skates. Cruikshank in there. Perron nearby, hoping the puck comes free, making his NHL debut tonight. Here's White in front. They score! Angus Cruikshank! And the Devils move within 6-3. Cruikshank's first goal as a Devil.
6-3, when you just said it, Matty, that's not insurmountable, is it?
No, they would have needed a bit of an effort to get there, but yeah, I mean, it was early. The goal came 3+ minutes into the third, and all you needed was to maybe get that fourth and put some pressure on Tampa Bay. Cruikshank's first goal since he scored with Ottawa against the Devils back in March of 2024. But 4 minutes later, Braden Point made it 7-3. Paul Cotter scored his second goal in as many nights to make it 7-4 at 15:28. But a power play occurred. That was a 4-on-4 goal. When Sabrin stepped out of the box, it was a power play for Tampa Bay. And, it was Kucherov continuing his strong play as Bjorkstrand put home an easy goal, and 8-4 was the final score.
Yeah, nothing really went well for the Devils. We're trying to spin some positive here. But and you can pick out a few players that broke some scoring slumps, but overall, Matty, pretty tough to find more than 5 positive things the Devils did tonight. Yeah,
they'll try to find many more and do some damage against Anaheim on Saturday. We'll see. But looking at some numbers from tonight's game, 37 shots for the Devils. They certainly had plenty of rubber put toward Jonas Johansson. 4 shots for Dougie Hamilton, 4 for Stefan Neeson, 4 for Shimo Nemitz, 4 for Jesper Bratt, and 4 for Jonas Siegenthal. Anyway, that's all well and good. 6 hits for Paul Cotter. We can talk about all those nice things, but it's regroup time for the Devils.
Maybe, Matty, do you think maybe the biggest regroup of the whole season? With all that's gone on now, probably the biggest regroup. Now, what we can say, and I can say, because you got to go positive, but it can be, this may be a new venture for the Devils as a group. Can they pull it together? I mean, and then will it pay dividends down the road? Sometimes I think losing like this can get people to reflect and think about mistakes or how they want to play. That's what we're hopeful for, but I don't know, Matty. I don't want to say how each player is going to process this, but there's got to be some soul-searching from a lot of players.
And maybe that includes the goalie, Jacob Markstrom. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Marky, obviously a tough one here just for everyone tonight. You guys had built up this goodwill the last two performances. How do you prevent this from feeling like a step back?
Well, I don't know. It is a step back, and we got to be honest with ourselves, and got to look yourself in the mirror, and got to be better.
What does that honesty look like to you?
Well, it's reality of the result, and what did I play 5 minutes today? That's not what I want to do.
For you personally, are those saves you expect to make?
Yeah.
Were you screened on the second one? Is that?
I haven't seen it at all, but whatever. It's 3-0 after 5 minutes. Can happen.
I'm just wondering, are you 100%, or is there something bothering you? I mean,
no, just I'm playing bad. Is that why? Or that's what you mean?
Well, no. I'm just wondering if you're.
Yeah.
Well, how would you assess how you played this season?
Well, not good enough. You?
So I just look at the numbers, 875, 6%.
Yeah.
Marky, when you talk about, we have to look ourselves in the mirror, we have to sort of I wasn't just mentioning just you, but just as a whole, what does this group need to do here when you're looking yourselves in the mirror at this point?
Yeah, I think we gotta, it's a tough league and it's a tough stretch we're in, and we battle our behinds off in Ottawa and got the win, but then we got to keep pushing. It's you don't get to take a couple breaths and we finally got the win. We got to keep pushing each other, and we got some great leaders in this locker room, and we got to take charge and push each other to be better and to be ready.
I was going to ask that. 2 big games coming up. How this team bounces back is going to say a lot, right?
I mean, we got a big practice tomorrow. Start with that, and then we just move on.
Thank you, Marky.
Well, 2 different Jacob Markstroms from the last time we heard him. After the loss to Vegas, gave up the 1 goal in the first and the 2 late, lose 3-0. And he was contentious, cantankerous. You called him Snarkstrom, and
yes,
that was a good description. Here, down.
Yes. And that's kind of what you wanted to hear. But here, I don't know who asked the question. Okay, they've got at least 3 medical people watching everything. What do you mean? Are you 100%? Did you see him in Ottawa? He was on fire. The only thing, he might have had some second-degree burns from the way he played. But don't ask him, are you 100% physically? Because you're throwing it on him. You mean he's going to play if he's not 100%? The doctors are going to let him play if he's not It's crazy, but I think it was so maybe unusual after he played so great in Ottawa that he gave up. The only one I would ask, Matty, was that third one on the ice. I don't know what happened. And that's the only one. Was he expecting something different? Was he anticipating the puck going higher? But that wasn't a good goal, and that's the one that really turned it.
And he gave up 3 goals on 7 shots, gave up 3 goals, got the win the other night. Devils didn't score, so that's got to be taken into consideration in the loss to Dallas. And he's given up 3 against Columbus, 4 against Philadelphia. My point is, where is Jacob Markstrom? And I think the question was, and no player is going to admit it. No. Let's assume he is 100%. You're right. The medical staff's not going to let him be less than.
No.
Players will play less than 100%, but you know what I mean.
Not goalies.
Yeah.
Forwards, yes. D, yes, but not goalies.
So, but I guess you're just looking for an answer, right? So, what's happening in goal?
But okay, I agree. But if you're looking for an answer, say to him, Marky, that third goal was so unusual. Where was your head? Because it wasn't like, don't be just general. It wasn't physical. And I'm just curious. Like, I know the puck was on in, Maddie. Was he anticipating something else? But it snookered him. It surprised him. And that's the only thing I'd say. What were you thinking there? But, mentally, he didn't seem to be in it, did he?
No, I mean, players don't really check out. They're competitive, but he had kind of checked out when he was pulled, and I'm sure his mind was a swirl. And what will happen on Saturday, though? That's the question. Is he going to play? He talked about an important practice. I'm sure there'll be a lot of video. I guess they'll be on the ice a little bit. You worry about the whole thing about practice time versus energy for a game and all that. But who do you come back with?
I would come back with Allen.
Mm-hmm,
and now, Vancouver, Markey was there. And I don't know what his record is against Vancouver. I don't know if there's anything to playing against your old team. But I think I may play the second half of the weekend with him and give you know what I mean? Just let him sort it out mentally. But, Matty, I don't know. Can we ever really figure anybody out sometimes? I don't think so. I mean, poor Nico Hischier's trying so hard. Takes another penalty tonight at a critical time. That's not him. He hates that. But, he never takes penalties, but he's got his stick up in between the gloves of the player, and it was a good call. But that's not him. So, I don't know, Matty. I know you got to ask some questions, but Markey, I don't know about you, I think he handled it the right way, don't you?
Oh, yeah. He stand up. He didn't hide in the trainer's room and say, I'm not speaking. He came out and spoke to the media, and the disappointment was clear in his voice. So if it's Jake Allen in goal, and I believe it will be, I agree with you, on Saturday against Anaheim, all right, so now that's one step, and I'm not saying that it guarantees a win, but, that third goal, Holmberg gets right around everybody. He comes in. So there were breakdowns. There were turnovers. You can't play that way, especially against an Anaheim team that goes.
Well, I know, Matty, and that's what I say to you. Show them the clip. Like, just to reinforce, do you know how poor a decision this was? Do you know how easily you got beat on the boards? Are you if you're really getting it, then you don't want to pile on. But I wonder, do you understand how critical and how poor you played those two things, whether it was mental or physical? So that's what I don't know. Do you just say, no, these guys, they'll figure it out, they'll think about it, I'm sure they will be moved by it? Or do you say, I want to make sure, I'm going to show them and tell me what you're thinking there. Why did you make that mistake? I don't know, though. I'm not a coach.
Yeah, that is Sheldon Keefe's challenge for sure. And you can't just play the rest of the month saying, all right, let's just not lose contact and we can lose a bunch of games. And, they'll come over the hill, the cavalry led by Jack Hughes and Brett Pesce. They're going to have to pick up some W's along the way.
Absolutely, Matty, and they're going to have to do it like they got 4 in Ottawa, but they've got to do it by winning defensively, right? You got to say at the end of the night, boy, they were tough to play against, which we've always talked about. Be tough to play against, and that means not making mistakes, giving pucks away, being physical, finishing your checks when you can. And then be tough to play against, be opportunistic, be good on the power play. We hope for that. And that way, that formula, they can play until those guys gets back. But there is no other formula they can follow with those guys out of the lineup that's going to bring them wins.
No, and we'll see. Hopefully,
I know.
Hopefully Luke Hughes gets it going offensively, but he'll have to be better defensively.
Yes.
That is no question about it. They need more from him, and I know every player will say, "I am trying. I'm doing my best." But you can see it's been a tough year for Luke Hughes. Never mind the few goals. I mean, he's lost his spot on the number 1 power play. Like it's just been tough.
Hey, when we praise someone, we mean it, and we've taken the whole situation into consideration. So if we are saying something like this, like Luke defensively, Kucherov it was not acceptable the way Kucherov beat him down in the corner in the third period, and then he beat him a second time. That's not to be harsh on you, Luke, but that's not who you are, right? And he'd say, no, I know. And that's all we're saying. We will praise people when they're playing at the top of the game, but when they're not, Maddie and I got to call it like it is, and it's not only him, but he's maybe the most noticeable because after last year having such a great year, signing that big contract, you're thinking, okay, he's going to be difference maker, in the right way. But that hasn't occurred, and there's been times where he's made mistakes that have really cost the Devils too. So that's what we're talking about, and that's just the way it is.
Let's hear what Jesper Bratt had to say. May have to interrupt it when Sheldon Keefe discusses the game, but here's what Bratter had to say.
It was just about they jump on you, and it was just a little bit too much too early.
I think that, they got some pucks that went in early and then started being uphill right from the get-go pretty much. So obviously not the start we wanted.
You guys had just put together 2 good games against Boston and Ottawa the other night. How do you prevent this from feeling like a step back, even though like maybe the result is and the process was in this one, but just going forward?
It was obviously things that we talked about before the game that needed to be key that I don't think we came up to that standard in the first period. And when you're playing against a team like this, that especially coming off a game like they did in Montreal, that things went pretty easy for their good players. Their top players were feeling it. I mean, it's going to be a hard night if you don't limit their time and space, if you're not hard and physical on them. And we made it a pretty easy first 2 periods on them.
Does it feel like a bit of a step back from what you guys had been building in a sense? And like, how do you prevent that mentality not to creep in?
Well, I think that what pretty much happened was that we just didn't get to that early enough. Right. And I mean, when you're playing against a good team, then the game is almost pretty much over when you're not ready to play. So I think there's still a lot of things in our game that I think has been good. Our touches with the goal scoring has started coming in more, and our process of creating is just that we made it way too easy on them.
Speaking of feeling it, how big a goal was that for you just to get your confidence going?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to score, but I mean, it's hard to talk about that now after a game like that. I would have hoped that goal would have come in a little bit better time for the team.
Where's the level of confidence right now, just for the room?
Good. Always been good. I mean, I don't think we have any doubt in this room whatsoever. We have really good individuals in this team that I know will just take this the right way.
When you talk about taking it the right way, what do you expect the bounce back to be?
We have an honest conversation with ourselves about it. That there's a certain standard we have to set that standard a lot higher. I mean, it's certain small plays around the game that just can't really continuing happening, and that process of getting better can't just be a little bit of a setback once we start feeling confident. So we got to keep building on that.
Jesper, what's the message from Sheldon and the team leaders after a game like that?
We had to be vocal. That's about it. I think most of the things that we talked about, I'm going to let that stay here because we had that talk in the locker room, and I think that's just what it's going to stay there. And we have a good practice day tomorrow, and we have 2 really hard games coming up that we're excited for. So it had to be an honest conversation, man to man, and I think we did that a good job.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall, because I'm sure it got a little loud and got a little pointed. It would have to be.
Well, you know what he said was, and where you'd like to ask him, we didn't have a good start. And then you'd like to say, why didn't you have a good start? See, I would sooner say we thought we were going to make some good plays, but they didn't turn out that way. But our mindset was, we got to make good plays. We can't break down early, rather than just say, we got to start better. Because I would think, Matty, they wouldn't have went out on the ice to start the game like, all right, boys, well, whatever comes your way, just make plays, do whatever you want. No. But yet it didn't happen, so why? And I think some of it was just extenuating circumstances.
As we go downstairs, here's head coach Sheldon Keefe.
They get going.
I was just texting. Where's the coach?
Shoot at the net early, so that makes it tough. However, I thought after 2-0, I thought that we had some real pushback and kind of found our game after that. Obviously, we get it at 2-1. Seems like we're finding our way back. I think at the time they make it 3-1, the shots are 12-6 for us, and we're kind of on our way. Once they get the third one, that's tough. That's a tough one emotionally.
These games are coming so quick. As a coach, you got to be like a psychologist, I guess. You just flush this and get ready for a big weekend. How do you approach this?
No, we can't flush this one. We got our ass kicked today. Like we were outworked, outcompeted, outclassed in lots of ways. So this is not one to just push past. There's some real lessons in this one.
Is there an added sense of disappointment just because of the goodwill maybe goodwill is not the right word, but with the Boston performance, the Ottawa performance, and then this is what kind of happens at home? How do you kind of process that?
Yeah, it's hard to process. I thought we had a real simple and direct plan here today, which was, talking about how there was going to be more work, more speed onto the puck, more physicality at the puck. All that was going to be required to compete in this game today, and we just didn't. We didn't bring that. We didn't have that. So, when you play against that team, and this is an annual occurrence now, or this Tampa Bay Lightning team, that you can see how many winners they have over there. They come in and they show you how to play hockey and how to compete, and we've got to take these lessons. And we got lots of guys, on our team that, I think are shown and feel it, the level of competitiveness that's required to compete in the league.
When you say shown and feel, you mean from like the opponent? Is that sorry? I just trying to
the opponent. Yeah. Just when you're playing against a team like that, when their best players are just taking the puck away from us at will because they're competing and they're hard at the puck. That's there's lots to take from that.
Sheldon, what's your big picture concern level with Markstrom right now? It looks like these games where he's given up 3 or more goals have been more common than not this year.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer. He obviously is a similar game in Ottawa in that sense. Yet is the reason why we win the game, despite the fact we did some good things and all that. Some of the saves and how he competes in the net. We don't win that game. So, because of that, I'm sensitive to it. Yet at the same time, we need him to be better. We've got people out and they're trying to find your groove as a team and get some traction. We need a guy like him to step up for us. Like I said, I think he's a big reason why we come away with 2 points in Ottawa. So I hate having to pull him there, but I think at 2-1, we're finding our game, and like I said, I think we're controlling things pretty good. That goal I thought was a real emotional drain for our team, and I had to do something to try to give us a little bit of life and a little bit of change. Clearly didn't work.
Just feels like this season's been a tale of two teams here. There's a team that won a bunch at the beginning and on a bit of a slide here. Just in your assessment, which team do you think you are, and is it maybe somewhere in the middle if it's not neither of them? Yeah,
I think it's fair to say we're somewhere in the middle. Which is exactly where we kind of find ourselves in the standings, just kind of in the middle. So yeah, it's hard to tell, obviously, exactly who and what we are. We haven't played a game yet this season with a full lineup. That said, there's injuries happening all across the league, including the team we played here today. So can't have this drastic of a drop. And as we talked about, I thought we took some real good steps in on the road. And it's disappointing we couldn't bring that here. This game here obviously is far different than any of the games we lost previously at home. 0-0 games, 1-0 games. You're right there in the third period, and that's the first one. Where we've already given up 3. I think, what was it, 6 or 7 minutes into the game. That's tough.
You mentioned the drastic drop, guys out of the lineup. Do you think this team needs some help?
I think that we're capable of playing far better than with the guys that we have, as we saw in the previous games. You want to get healthy. You want to get some guys back, but we've got enough guys to be able to compete and give ourselves a chance. As I just talked about, We had two of the best teams in the league in Dallas and Vegas in here last week, and it's 0-0. It's 1-0. And you can still say we're not playing that great, but we're right there in the games. So you get every opportunity to get points. Just we need to play better as a group. But you don't have a chance to play better if you don't meet the necessary emotional and competitive requirements. That's, to me, more than anything, is what's disappointing here today. We have to invest more physically.
Do you think your team's confidence is shaken at all, or are they able to talk to each other in the room?
Well, I think the guys are positive. But guys are also recognizing what's going on. I mean, they're not naive. They want to be better. They want better results. They care. But I've got to help them get there, and they got to help each other and kind of make the decision that they're gonna invest physically and emotionally to help not have nights like this. And it's easy when you look at everything's kind of piled up. When you look at it all. As I said, this one here is entirely different than anything else that we've experienced, so that's why I'm so disappointed here today. We confident that we'll be able to bounce back, and we'll have lots of examples to show our team about, for me, what it takes to be a real competitive and consistent team in the league in terms of the standard of play and the standard of competitiveness. Yeah, thanks.
To be a fly on the wall of tomorrow's meeting with the video.
Oh, isn't that the truth? He wasn't pulling any punches. There's going to be video dragged out tomorrow, and it'll be shown. But, Matty, what he's saying is, I don't know where the team was at the emotional level when they started. They gave up 2. That's not good, okay? So you're a little down. But then Jack scores, and he said himself they got a push going. And that third goal shocked all of us, including Jacob Markstrom. He just doesn't let it in. It's on the ice, a backhander. Keep your stick on the ice. He knows that. But you could feel it here. It just was, what? How did that go in? He's saying it. Players are saying it. And the coach then said, I got to make something change here. But it looked to me like, Matty, I don't know about you, but before the goal, they seemed to be coming on emotionally. After that goal, it was just kind of a sag, and they never did really get it back.
Yeah, and as Sheldon Keefe said, trying to figure out still who this team is.
Oh, I agree.
Middle of the pack right now. And
no, go ahead, Matty. But remember, Tampa Bay, before the last game, they had lost 4 in a row and hadn't scored in 2 straight games.
Yeah.
So then you say, well, who are you? It's just, I don't know. But I think that's why, at first I thought, no. But he said, we haven't lost our confidence. We know what we got to do to win. Not that they're going to do it all the time, but at least they know what it takes to win. And tonight, it was not it. And he knew that, and so do the players.
And I would suspect we'll see a team that will be more competitive, a little harder to play against, maybe a lot harder to play against on Saturday against Anaheim.
Absolutely.
And that will be the next game for the New Jersey Devils, a matinee Saturday afternoon here at Prudential Center, a game you'll hear on the Devils Hockey Network.